Joining me now, as promised, attorney for Hunter Biden, Chris Clark. I gave you a head start on some of those questions, so I'm sure you've been thinking about it. Let's start, though, with the basics. When is he going to make his plea?
We don't know. So the documents got filed today, and we're waiting to hear from the court on scheduling for a proceeding. And I'm sure everybody will be interested when that happens.
Do you have an idea of what the conditions are going to be? Is he going to be on probation?
It's up to the court. My expectation, at least with regard to after that proceeding, is he'll be released without conditions. But, you know, what the ultimate disposition of the case is going to be up to the judge.
The prosecutors are not asking for jail time. Are you concerned that the judge here might freelance?
I think, you know, look, there are documents that haven't been publicly released yet. I think people have reported what the prosecutors are asking for. I think you have to wait till the court proceeding happens to know. But, you know, I think the judge is going to do what's fair. And I think what's fair is, you know, my client gets on with his life.
I want to get to what's fair and what the GOP is saying in a moment. But I'm hoping that you can bring us into the room when you reached this plea agreement with prosecutors. Did you sense that they were happy to be done with it, that there was frustration? What can you tell us about the negotiation to get to this point?
You know, I don't think it's appropriate to talk about my conversations with my adversaries. What I can tell you is, you know, they were very diligent, very dogged. This was, you know, it took 5 years, and it was 5 years of work that they put in. And even throughout working out the ultimate resolution, I think that they were always driving for what they thought was fair. 5
years. NBC reports at times this was a counterintelligence investigation, that this was an investigation to FARA violations, which is how you register to work with a foreign government if you're an American citizen. Money laundering. Again, 5 years, and what they came up with is 2 misdemeanor tax counts.
That's the resolution we have, is that Mr. Biden's going to take responsibility for failing to timely pay his taxes for those 2 years. And there's going to be a diversion with regard to this 10-day period that he possessed a gun. And that is how the case is going to be resolved.
You heard Speaker McCarthy, I just played it a moment ago, him saying that this is proof that there are 2 versions of justice and that this is a slap on the wrist and President Biden is being politically persecuted. What's your response to that?
Again, this was a 5-year, very diligent investigation pursued by incredibly professional prosecutors, some of whom have been career prosecutors, one of whom at least was appointed by President Trump. And no one has ever said they're not competent, good, or diligent. I haven't heard anyone say that. It would be false to say that. And this is the resolution that was come to after 5 years.
McCarthy was saying that if you look at other cases where the violations are similar, there's jail time, there's much more, there are more consequences, stricter consequences than what Hunter Biden is facing. Is this a sweetheart deal?
You know, I've heard Speaker McCarthy say a lot of stuff I don't agree with. There was no basis for what he said, and he's not right.
Do you think Hunter Biden was treated fairly?
That's a really complicated question. This is a resolution that we took under all the circumstances.
Why is it so complicated?
I think that, you know, Mr. Biden had a period in his life that was troubled, where, you know, it's very clear he didn't timely pay the taxes he was supposed to pay at the time. He subsequently has paid them, but he didn't timely pay them. I think it's a very hard question whether I would have been prosecuted for that or not. And I think I could have been, but I think that's a hard question, and it's one I can't answer.
Do you think that because his name is Hunter Biden, because he has been the focus of so much of the Republican line of attack against the current president, that maybe this investigation was a little bit bigger and broader and more intensive than it would have been if this was Chris Clark, as you said, facing these sort of allegations?
I mean, I spent many years interfacing with the prosecutors who brought this investigation, and I think they really tried to be fair. I think that they tried to be thorough, tried to look into everything possible, and I really think they tried to be fair.
How does Hunter Biden feel?
I think Hunter feels happy to move on with his life and his recovery, and keep doing. I mean, the one thing nobody talks about is how long Hunter has been sober, moving forward with his life, being a good person. No one talks about that. That's what he's going to continue to do.
He didn't get into any legal trouble, at least not yet. And you can tell me if you believe this is closed as well, regarding his interactions with Ukraine or China. Do you think he regrets, though, pursuing that while his dad was vice president?
I have no idea. I mean, that's not something that I can speak about. But he didn't do anything that has been the source of any charges after a 5-year investigation by the Department of Justice.
Is this the end of it?
My understanding is that we're done.
The statement from the prosecutor's office, from Weiss's office, said the investigation is ongoing. This is the statement announcing that criminal charges have been filed. It's obviously not the statement about the plea agreement. Are you led to believe that that investigation is ongoing, will be dropped once this plea deal is made official?
I'm not led to believe anything. That's Mr. Weiss's statement. I think there's going to be a court proceeding. I think there are going to be agreements that are going to come out about the court proceeding. And I think everyone will see what happens once that occurs.
Would you make a deal, though, if you thought there were more charges coming?
Would I make a deal?
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't.
That says a lot. All right, let me ask you about future plans for Hunter Biden. Does he plan on filing any of his own litigation, maybe defamation claims or the illegal dissemination of personal information?
I can't speak to sort of like future legal plans. Obviously, whatever Hunter's plans are, if I know them, are privileged. Mm-hmm. There are people who've treated him very poorly. And I know, Hunter struggled in a lot of ways. And I wish people, I understand that he's the son of the President of the United States, but all of us have family members that have struggled with addiction and other issues. And I know it's hard to have empathy for that, but a lot of people showed no empathy. But that's not a legal issue. That's just kind of, you wish the world be different.
Is there a case there for defamation if one was to be pursued? Is there a case for illegal dissemination of personal information?
We just finished a 5-year DOJ investigation. That's not a legal issue I'm ready to take on today.
Do you have any idea if Hunter Biden's laptop had anything to do with this investigation? Was it used?
I don't. No, I don't. I mean,
were you ever asked about it?
I can't recall being asked about it, to be honest with you. But there's nothing about the situation that's been filed that has a thing to do with the laptop.
Why not?
I don't know. You'd have to ask the prosecutors.
The Republicans will say the laptop has tons of proof that there was that Hunter Biden participated in corruption, that there's financial proof that President Biden and Hunter Biden were connected in the gains that were made overseas by Hunter Biden. Have you ever seen any proof of that?
No, I know. I mean, again, I've seen people wave various random emails around. I've never seen it. Obviously, whatever that stuff has been available to everyone in the United States for many years. Sadly, I mean, I don't know how you'd feel about if everyone was disseminating the contents of your stolen phone. I wouldn't be happy about it. But everybody's had it. Maybe you would. I don't know. That would be your choice.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen anybody make an actual persuasive case that something was done. And, you asked whether or not the subject of the laptop was part of the investigation. It's been out there. And, we don't have any proof of it, that there was any kind of violation.